Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to unpack complex topics, pull out the vital insights from the sources you bring us. And today we are diving into a practice that, well, it promises to not just improve your life, but maybe fundamentally transform it. And in some really practical ways. We've got quite a stack of material here. It's going to take us from, believe it or not, ancient cave paintings all the way to modern advertising,
Yeah.
all to get our heads around something called Sigil Magic. So our mission today, equip you to craft a powerful sigil statement, activate it, and really get you started on manifesting the life you envision.
Yeah. And what's really fascinating, I think, is how something that sounds maybe a bit esoteric, is it actually rooted in these very, very old human practices and how modern ideas about the mind, even like you said, from advertising, can actually shed light on why it works. It's not just wishful thinking. It's deeper. It's about understanding the mechanics of desire manifestation.
Exactly. Think of this as your shortcut, your way to get well-informed about a really transformative tool. The sources we're drawing on today, they come from authors, podcasters, people who've really dug into this field. There are even personal accounts, like one person transforming a, quote, particularly dire moment into quite literally the top of the world. So yeah, let's unpack this. Okay, so first things first. What exactly is sigil magic? And, why is it seen as such a powerful, flexible framework for change?
Right. So at its heart, sigil magic is really about boosting the probability of certain outcomes, making things more likely to happen. One source calls it the least complex form of enchantment that can still be called magic, which basically means it's accessible. Anyone could do it, even if you're totally new to this stuff. And it's so adaptable, it apparently fits into any magical system. The core idea seems to be that magic itself is, well, simple, maybe like sex, as one source puts it, and it's a birthright of all mankind.
That's a pretty bold claim, isn't it? That magic is simple and for everyone. How can something potentially so powerful be, well, so straightforward?
I think the simplicity comes from its elegance, its adaptability. It doesn't require you to ditch anything else in your life, your spiritual practice. The sources even suggest, you could teach a nun sigil magic. That's how universal they think it is. It's about a direct line, maybe, to your own inner power.
Okay, now this is where, for me, it gets really interesting. The history. Our sources mention that, yeah, people often think sigil magic kicked off in the 1980s, right? With the chaos magic movement in England. Figures like Ray Sherwin, Peter J. Carroll.
By the chaos magicians, known for being experimental, results-focused.
But the sources say it actually goes back much, much further.
Oh, absolutely. If you connect the dots, one argument is that the 80s understanding came from, quote, a theory of mind that is too small to contain it. This whole act of letting a desire surface from the imaginal or the unconscious, that realm of images, imagination, archetypes, then applying an in-world transformation and sending it back. That process is described as, one, very powerful, and two, very old. Talking cave paintings, maybe even before that. It suggested this could be one of the first acts of magic humans have ever done.
Wow. Okay, so understanding that deep history is fascinating, definitely. But how does knowing that change how we use sigils today? Why does that ancient context matter now?
Well, it matters because it challenges our modern cosmovision, our basic worldview, how we see the universe and our place in it. Our sources suggest a more, let's say, accurate understanding of symbols comes from these animistic theories of mind, where the imaginal and the spirit world are identical.
Animistic, meaning symbols aren't just symbols, they're alive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That perspective, where symbols are living entities, not just static representations, it's common in many cultures outside the post-Enlightenment West.
Yeah.
For instance, Aboriginal philosopher Tyson Yunkaporta talks about indigenous cultures using symbols, patterns, and images to encode knowledge in suprarational ways. These images aren't literal codes, they're like metaphors. They recall huge sets of knowledge, and they're seen as entities in their own right. So interacting with a symbol like that, it can have really outsized effects on your internal processes.
The big takeaway, the technical importance here, is stepping into that true antiquity and power. It's about maybe diminishing that scientifically falsified and erroneous cosmovision by learning humbly, learning from how other cultures see mind, symbol, imagination. It unlocks the real power.
Okay, that really shifts the perspective.
Okay.
So now that we understand the deeper roots, how do we actually do it? Our sources lay out a really clear step-by-step process, and it seems like it starts with something foundational, knowing what you actually desire, and then putting that into a clear statement. Precisely. And that's often a big hurdle for people, isn't it? Surfacing and formulating desire, figuring out what you genuinely want versus what you think you should want. That initial work is key.
Right. So once you've pinned down that true desire, how do you phrase it? What are the rules for the sigil statement?
The key guardrails are pretty simple, actually. First, present tense, as if it's already happening.
Yeah.
And second, absolutely no negative words.
Uh-huh.
So instead of saying, I am no longer sick, you would aim for something like healthy, happy life.
Okay.
Or instead of no more poverty, you reframe it positively, like free from poverty.
Why is that specific wording so important? Why no negatives?
Because the thinking goes. The unconscious mind is trying its best, but it's an imprecise process.
Yeah.
If you feed it words like no or sick, the results might be okay, approximately good, but they'll still cluster around those negative ideas. The goal is to get the results clustering around the positive words you actually want. And there's even linguistic research mentioned. Apparently, languages that kind of blur past and future week, future time reference correlate with better goal achievement. Because the unconscious doesn't really do time or distance. It operates in the now.
Okay. So you speak its language.
Exactly. So optimized statements sound like I am my ideal weight, not I wish to lose weight fast or I wholly own my house instead of I wish to be mortgage free. It's about that present moment certainty.
Got it. So you've crafted the perfect statement. Next step is creating the actual visual symbol, the sigil itself. How does that work?
Yeah, this part's described as easy and fun. You literally just write out your statement, no spaces between words. Then you go through and cross out any repeating consonants. After that, cross out all the vowels.
All of them.
All the vowels, yeah. What you're left with is a unique sequence of consonants. Then you basically smush them together visually, draw them, overlay them, play around until the shape, the glyph, looks pleasing to you.
So you really don't need to be an artist then. What if you feel like you just, can't draw?
Doesn't matter at all. The sources really stress this. You can't fuck this up. It's framed as a sacred process where you, which is God, is communicating to your unconscious, which is also God. It's this idea that the power is inherently in you, your conscious self talking to your deeper unconscious divine self.
Wow, okay.
So the important thing is just trusting your own inner knowing. When does the sigil feel right? Trust that feeling. Once you've got one you like, you cut it out and then you park it somewhere. Drawer, altar, wherever, just for a day or two. The idea is to forget as best as possible what each one is for. Just let it settle, clear your conscious mind a bit.
And materials for actually making it, is it complicated?
Nope, super simple. Just pen and paper for actually designing it. Though for the activation step later, paint pens on black art paper are recommended. Apparently the dark paper works well with candlelight. And it's also seen as a way to kind of celebrate and validate folks who maybe had bad experiences with art class back in the day. Makes it accessible.
Okay, so crafting, parking, then comes activation. This sounds like where the magic really kicks in, right?
Indeed. Yeah, this could be a panic point for beginners, apparently.
Yeah.
But there's a baseline activation method anyone can do. It's mostly about setting the mood.
Yeah.
Think like a date night for people who've been married for 30 years.
Yeah.
You put in a little effort.
Ah, okay.
Tidy your room, light a few candles, made it smell good. Incense is good. Frankincense is mentioned as the broad-spectrum antibiotic of incense. Good all-rounder for clearing the space.
Is there a specific ritual? Like, do you need to say certain words or prayers?
You don't have to, but one source suggests the Lord's Prayer. Even if you're not Christian, it's seen as powerful, kind of non-denominational in this context. The idea is it's a prayer delivered by God to speak to God. You set your intention, say the prayer, recognizing you're kind of altering the field, making the space a bit sacred, or you can simply call upon your own saints, guides, angels, and highest powers. Call in your spirit team, your personal energetic support crew.
Right. And then what do you actually do with the sigil itself during this activation time?
Okay, so after you've set the mood, maybe done a few deep vagal breaths, in through the nose for 4, out through the mouth for 8, calms the system right down, you pick up one sigil. Just one at a time. And the technique is described as being like one of those magic eye puzzles.
Oh, yeah, I remember those.
Exactly. You just stare at the sigil, let your eyes relax, unfocus, and the image will start to warp, maybe shimmer, and eventually just disappear from your focused vision. When your eyes naturally refocus and the sigil comes back into view, it should feel different. It should feel inert, just like paint pen on paper. That feeling is the sign that it's gone in. The desire's been impressed on the unconscious. If it doesn't activate like that, if it still feels alive or like it has energy, no big deal. Just put it down, maybe move to the next one if you're doing a batch, and try that one again later.
That sounds like a really distinct moment, knowing it's gone in. So after that activation, What's the next vital step?
This is the final release, and it's absolutely crucial. You have to genuinely say or feel something along the lines of, does not matter, need not be.
Hmm.
Or maybe, I release all outcomes to the Most High. Something that signifies letting go. This action, this feeling, it closes the desire channel from the conscious to the unconscious. And that prevents what's called lust of result, that anxious wanting.
Why is letting go so important, though? It feels kind of counterintuitive after putting in all that focus and energy.
Yeah, it does seem that way, doesn't it? But it leads to this key question about desire itself. One source puts it pretty bluntly. How is wanting a girlfriend and a new car gone for you so far?
Ouch. Fair point.
Right. The process isn't about desperate wanting. It's about opening up communication between God and God.
Yeah.
Your conscious and unconscious divine spark in the infinite confidence and understanding of miracles. This borrows heavily from New Thought ideas, people like Neville Goddard. His whole thing was feeling is the secret. You get what you truly accept deep down to be true.
Ah, okay.
So the specific kind of forgetting that works isn't about wiping your memory. It's about living entirely in the feeling of, I have a job, or whatever the desire is. Living in the fulfillment, the having of it, not in the lack or the constant wanting of it. It's a shift in your state of being.
Okay, that clarifies the forgetting part. You've done the whole process. Statement, creation, activation, release. What about the physical sigil cards? What do you do with them afterwards? Keep them, burn them.
Yeah, good question. The sources are pretty clear. There's no optimization hack here at all. What you do with the physical card doesn't affect the results in any way. So, no pressure. However, there's a recommended practice from one text, Sigil's Reboot, called low attention processing. You basically put the cards somewhere, you'll kind of half see them every day, tack to a mirror, maybe the fridge door. Somewhere they're visible, but not prominent. You see them, but you don't really notice them after a while. They just fade into the background. This allows that sort of gentle back and forth between the conscious and the unconscious mind.
Ah, okay. Not forced forgetting, just gentle background processing.
Exactly. Then, usually in about 1 to 3 months, the sources say, you'll probably look at them one day and just feel, oh, these are really gone. Like the energy is completely neutral, the desire fully integrated. At that point, feel free to discard them however you like.
And if you do choose to discard them, maybe out in nature or something, anything to consider there.
Yeah, good point. One source, who's also a permaculture designer, gives a heads up. Regular art paper and especially paint pens often have, toxic chemicals in them. So if you're planning to release them into a natural environment, it's better to think ahead and choose a much more biodegradable option for creating them in the first place. It's just about being a good citizen of the cosmos, respectful of the environment and any local place spirits.
Makes sense. Be mindful. Okay, let's shift gears slightly to some more advanced tips for people who get really into this and do a lot of sigils. One potential issue mentioned is cross currents. What are those, and how do you deal with them?
Right, cross currents. This happens when you have multiple desires going at once, and they might not be totally aligned. They could subtly interfere with each other, like maybe you're doing sigils for settling down on a farm, but also sigils for, I don't know, backpacking around the world. There could be some friction there.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
So a really neat solution offered is using meta sigils. These are sigils specifically designed to manage your other sigils. You could create one that says something like, all my sigils manifest smoothly, or maybe all my sigils manifest for the highest good of all.
Ah, like a master controller sigil.
Exactly. It helps harmonize everything, smooth out those potential conflicts, ensure things unfold coherently.
Clever. Okay, another interesting update mentioned in the sources is about that whole forgetting idea we talked about. Apparently, Austin Osman Spare's original concept that consciously remembering the sigil's meaning would cancel it out might not be the full picture anymore.
Yeah, this is a really important point, linking back to modern ideas about the mind. Research, especially from advertising, and also studies on conditions like amnesia, they show pretty clearly that cognition is not confined to the conscious mind. Your brain does a lot of processing beneath the surface. Think about an amnesiac patient learning a maze. They might not consciously remember doing it before, but they still get faster each time. The learning happens unconsciously. So magic, in this view, is kind of like advertising to your unconscious. You're planting seeds. The key isn't necessarily forced forgetting, but establishing that low attention processing basis we mentioned, allowing that gentle back and forth between the conscious and the unconscious seems to be optimal.
So it's less about actively trying to forget and more about shifting how you hold the memory. It's not demanding attention anymore.
Precisely. And that's why the does not matter, need not be statement works so well at the end of activation. It helps you shift into living entirely in the feeling of, I have a job, or whatever the goal is.
Yeah.
You're embodying the fulfillment, not clinging to the desire or the lack. The memory is there, but its charge has changed.
Okay, that clarifies things a lot. Now, another technique that sounded really powerful was shoaling. What's that about?
Yes, this is cool. It's basically deploying multiple interrelated sigils in the one activation session.
Yep.
Instead of one big single desire like a cannonball, think of it more like a scattergun approach
Yeah.
or a school of fish, hence shoaling. You create a batch of sigils around a general theme or goal. This builds adaptability into the process, like how complex flocking or schooling behavior emerges from simple individual rules. You're giving the universe more options, more pathways for manifestation.
And within shoaling, there's this specific tactic called the robofish. How does that work? That name is great.
Isn't it? The robofish is a really clever addition. It's a sigil you include in your shoal, but it represents something that has already happened or something you already have, something definitely true.
Oh, interesting, like a proof point.
Kind of. When
Ah.
you activate this robofish sigil, along with all your other desire sigils in the shoal, it apparently acts like an engine. It pulls the rest of them along into manifestation. The sources claim this technique shows orders of magnitude greater success rates. Plus, it helps neutralize that lust of result because you're literally building achieved results into the enchantment itself. It creates this current of success.
Wow, that's a fascinating strategy. Okay, finally, let's talk about gratitude. The sources mention it as a force multiplier. How does gratitude connect with sigil magic?
This taps into something really fundamental about our relationship with what we desire and maybe with the universe itself. The sources draw a sharp distinction between saying, for example, I am lucky to have this job, versus I'm grateful for this job.
What's the difference there? They sound similar.
It's subtle but significant. Lucky kind of encodes this feeling of precariousness, maybe like you don't fully deserve it, it could vanish any second. Whereas grateful reflects a deeper, lived-in understanding of you being fundamentally a child of the cosmos and ultimately deserving these good things.
Yeah.
It comes from a place of worthiness, not chance.
So it's really about shifting your internal state, your core belief about deservingness.
Exactly, yes. It draws on what's described as an indigenous way of being, giving thanks for that which we have already received, not just focusing on what we want next. This practice, this genuine feeling of gratitude, it kickstarts the positive energy flow. It helps rewire any unconscious beliefs you might have, maybe from a difficult past, that the universe doesn't have your back. So a regular gratitude practice trains your whole system to relax more into the process of asking for other things. Why? Because you start to build this fundamental belief that when I ask for stuff, things will arrive. It builds that foundation of deservedness that makes asking feel natural and effective.
That makes a lot of sense. It reframes the whole relationship. Well, we've certainly covered a lot of ground. We've journeyed through this surprising history, the practical steps, the deep nuances of sigil magic, all the way from Neolithic squiggles to modern advertising psychology. It really does seem like a glorious, powerful, and incredibly adaptable framework for transformation, especially, it seems, for beginners.
It really is fascinating, isn't it? How all these different threads, ancient magical practices, modern neuroscience, indigenous wisdom, they all seem to converge. They illuminate this surprisingly coherent and apparently very effective approach to manifestation. It really shows how connected our inner and outer worlds can be.
So what does all this mean for you, listening right now? If magic really is, in a sense, advertising to your unconscious, and if your mind can actually interface with that freaky quantum uncertainty that underpins the entire universe, what boundaries in your life that seem totally fixed, totally impossible, might actually be more flexible than you've ever allowed yourself to imagine? What might you already be influencing, maybe without even realizing it? Something to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep unlocking the incredible capacities of your own inner cosmos.